So, a very good morning to everyone, Excellencies, colleagues, friends. A very special welcome to Ambassador High Commissioner Legault from Canada. Today is the day. And we are here to witness the handing over of her letters of credence to the Director General of our organization. Just to clarify, High Commissioner Legault is not a new arrival. She has been with us for a while, and we were joking about what the late presentation of the letters meant. But we were also satisfied that notwithstanding the late presentation of letters, we have been working very, very hard together, Canada and ourselves. And in fact, there's a lot that we can point to by way of that, as a result of that relationship. And so, I don't want to say any more at this point, but I would wish now to invite our Director General to the podium to say a few words of welcome and to commence the proceedings.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Sedgwick. Excellencies of the Diplomatic Corps, His Excellency of Morocco, Excellency of Cuba, Representative of AICA, colleagues of the Commission, our special guest today, High Commissioner Marie Legault, and her colleague from the High Commission. Madam High Commissioner, today I receive your formal letters of accreditation to the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States with great pleasure. That this formality, although long delayed as Ambassador Severin mentioned, has not affected the cordial and fraternal interaction between the High Commission and the OECS Commission speaks volumes of the closeness of the relationship between Canada and the OECS. In accepting these credentials, I'm also very pleased to confirm the decision of the OECS authority to re-establish an OECS diplomatic presence in Canada, as well as our determination to regularize and expand the Eastern Caribbean Liaison Service, which is our mechanism for coordination of the seasonal agricultural workers program and AgStream. Both of these falls under the rubric of the Canadian Temporary Foreign Worker Program, and it is our intention to seek to expand opportunities for temporary workers from the OECS, to embrace a wider range of skills and larger numbers of persons. We will, in the early course of this year, convene a meeting of labor ministers of the OECS to ensure that it assumes a high priority in member states. We are particularly excited about this program because it offers employment opportunity on a rotational basis in areas of high demand in Canada, thus satisfying the labor market needs of Canada, while enabling our skilled persons to earn a living without illegally migrating. In the past 5 years alone, a total of 3,623 workers from 6 OECS member states have participated in this program, earning a net total of $27,192,080. 37% of the workers came from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, 33% from St. Lucia, 17% from Dominica, 10% from Grenada, 3% from Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis, and less than 1% from Montserrat. We expect to widen the range of participating member states as well as increase the numbers. I must also place on record our deepest appreciation to you personally and for your intervention, and to the flexibility displayed by your government in providing 2 in-country biometrics collection missions for the seasonal workers. As you can imagine, had these workers from these countries had to fly to Trinidad at their own cost for biometrics, it would have put the program out of range for some of them. So we really deeply appreciate that intervention. The first of the workshops is actually happening right now in St. Lucia, 19th to the 22nd of March, which is also accommodating the Dominican workers. And the second will be mounted in St. Vincent from the 25th to the 26th of March. Canada's major contribution to the OECS has been its historical contribution to human resource development of the region, both through its scholarship programs as well as its placement of Canadian volunteers in development work in the islands. The OECS Commission has also benefited through several projects, the most significant of which has been the Institutional Development Project here at the Commission, and currently a deepening collaboration initiative with Statistics Canada called the Project for Regional Advancement of Statistics in the Caribbean, PRAC, that is yielding positive results in the advocacy of stats and in building member states' capacity. High Commissioner Murray, we look forward with an optimism rooted in this history of meaningful collaboration to a deepening of the links between Canada and the OECS across a much wider portfolio of development imperatives in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jules. And I now call on High Commissioner to present the letters following which she will say a few words to us.
Thank you, Ambassador Sullivan. Dr. Jules, colleagues, ambassadors, staff of the OECS and the Commission. I will echo the words of Dr. Jules and say, you know, it is usual to start by saying, it is a pleasure for me to be here today. But these words for me today really have meaningful connotation. It's the weight is really heavy, as you've said, Dr. Jules. The historic relationship between Canada and the Eastern Caribbean has been very, very strong. And since this is a historic moment, this is the first time that a High Commissioner to the OECS presents credentials. So I think I will take just a few minutes, not too long, but to reflect a little bit on our history.
Sure.
Just last week, as some of you were, I was invited, and thank you for this invitation, at the ceremony for the accession of Guadeloupe to the OECS, which was also a very historic moment, and it was a beautiful and emotional ceremony. And what I took from it actually was a few themes that came out, which, especially in the remarks from the various speakers, and especially from Dr. Jules and Mr. Gonzalez, the theme that came out was the theme of love, cooperation, collaboration, as well as brotherhood. And I think I can say that I'm very proud to say that these themes also apply to the relationship between Canada and the Eastern Caribbean. And I can say that because it has been the reality. It might be the first time that we present credentials to the organization, but we have been brothers for a long time. These linkages go back to the first steps in the history that the countries and the organization and the Eastern Caribbean took initially. And we can even go back to the Federation of the West Indies, where Canada, understanding that communication linkages were very important, decided to provide the Federation with ferries, because we know that communication is important. When you create, we are a federation also, we know that it is important to link our space. Canada's space is very large, but the Caribbean space is very large and has oceans between various territories and countries. So we provided, for those of you who remember, two ferries, the Feral Fawn and the Feral Leaf, which Maple. Sorry, yes, Maple. Maple Leaf? Maybe it should have been like that. Which people still remember fondly to this day. We also understood that education was very important, and I met yesterday. I think we have unfortunately not kept account of the thousands of scholarships that people have received, either to go study in Canada or to study here at the University of the West Indies. And even, as I said just yesterday, I met someone whose father had been beneficiary of one of those scholarships. And it includes, prime ministers and governors generals and everybody, a lot of people in the Caribbean, and that's how we build those people-to-people linkages and the strength of our relationship at the personal level. We also understood the need for infrastructure, and we were present and supported a lot of infrastructure projects, including, again, Sir Neville Sinak last night was reminding me of roads and dams that we have built, as well as schools, airports, because we understood that country needs infrastructure when you start your journey. And we have continued with projects in agriculture, justice reform, and education over the years. I could continue on and on about what we have done, but I don't know about our history. But it illustrates the deep bond that we have, and that's why I say that it is really a deep pleasure for me to be here today and to present credentials. As Ambassador Severin said also, this was not at all a political reflection on anything. It was just purely an administrative reason that it was not done before. It took a little bit of time, and as I was reflecting with Dr. Jules as we arrived here, it was the first thing that Dr. Jules mentioned to me when we met a few years ago, and I said, okay, yes, I'll find out why we're not accredited to the OECS. It took a little bit of time to really look into the administrative part of it. But and then it was a bit of a puzzle to find time for both of us to be together in the same place. But very happy that we're here today to do that. And as Dr. Jules said, our relationship was very strong, also on part of the Eastern Caribbean, because since right after the Traité de Basse-Terre in 1982, the OECS had a high commission in Ottawa until 2011, and I'm very happy to see that this is going to be looked at again, and that there's an intention of reopening that mission in Ottawa. There's still an office in Toronto, but we will look at continuing that. We continue to support, if we move on to today, where we are in our relationship today. The OECS has a number of strategic objectives, including regional integration, including resilience, including social equity, and the strengthening of its various institutions. And I can say definitely that regional integration is something also from the beginning that we have supported and continue to support. For those of you who remember CIDA, Canadian International Agency, which is, I think, a brand name in the region, we supported the regional integration of the Eastern Caribbean and of the Caribbean in general, so much so that we restructured ourselves, and about 15 years ago, we restructured our operations and our structure within CIDA to become a regional program to support the regional integration in its various forms. And we increased the budget with a $600 million envelope to support that regional integration. And Dr. Jules mentioned some of the projects. I can talk about some of the themes that this has supported. Public financial management, which is something that is really important to the region, especially after the crisis of 2008. Well, we have created, and we were the first creator of CARTAC, which is now in its 5th iteration. So we've always been very present in CARTAC, which is a big supporter of public financial management. SEMCAR, you mentioned PRASC on statistics. This is, we continue to be present there. Resilience, we've been supporting CIVIMA as well as a number of local funds to support resilience as well as preparedness. Justice reform, there's a number of projects that we're doing, the Jurist, the Impact Justice, the Jurist with this Caribbean Court of Justice, as well as the Jurist project implemented through the UE, to the UE. Entrepreneurship, Complete Caribbean, that I see is still working with the Commission, is something that we were one of the first also to be part of and will continue to be part of. Education through UE Open Campus, it has, our support has enabled more infrastructure throughout the countries, as well as more programs to be put in place for students who cannot afford to go to either Jamaica, Barbados, or Trinidad. Leadership, the Caribbean Leadership Program, which a lot of high-level public sector leaders have been part of, which was actually coming out of an idea of Sir Dwight Venner, which we embarked on and embraced, and then created this leadership Caribbean Leadership Project with the Canadian School of Public Service, where I think it's now its 8th cohort, so this is something very popular. So those are a few examples. I will not go on because that whole broad of that envelope did translate into a number of projects. Very quickly about resilience, which is a second of your theme in terms of strategic objective. Resilience, I don't think there's anything that can translate more the need for resilience than the ever coming natural disasters every year. And we've been supporting, are trying to support the region in countering that threat, and especially after the aftermath but especially when it came to the height after Maria and Irma. And we were present at the 2017 conference in New York, CARICOM UN conference, where we also put in place an envelope of $100 million to support the region, which has now translated into a number of initiatives, including Dominica, to rebuild schools as well as to support the creation of a creek. But also in a number of other, we're supporting the strategic plan of SEDIMA, part of it. Number of other mechanisms, the CRIF, which everybody I'm sure is familiar with, the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, which was created in 2007 also by starting with Canadian funding, which I'm sure not a lot of people know. So it was also one of our initiatives, and now we're supporting more instruments and mechanisms within the CRIF to respond better to natural disasters. Strengthening of an institution, as Dr. Jules mentioned, yes, we've supported, of course, the OECS itself as an institution, with a number of projects and initiatives, which has supported an increased number of partnerships in Canada and in Europe and Asia, and helped the transition from Secretariat to Commission. The Eastern Caribbean Central Bank is also an institution. Your institutions, your regional institutions in the Eastern Caribbean are very, very strong. From the OECS, the ECCB, and the Supreme Court, Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, you have institutions that are model institutions and go beyond what other regional grouping have been trying to do and have not achieved. So we're very proud to have been supporting and associated with the ECCB, the OECS, as well as the Supreme Court in a number of projects. The RSS is also something that we've been supporting. It is also a very, very strong institution. We've supported a number of ways, including with the Training Institute, because your security is our security. Borders, crime knows no borders, and it is important for us to be there to help you. I won't talk about the last theme, and I know I'm taking probably a bit more time. The last theme is as Dr. Jules was mentioning, people-to-people relationship, and your theme also, your strategic objective of social justice. And in terms of people-to-people, we have now the Seasonal Agricultural Workers Program, which we've given the statistics, the numbers, and that we also hope to increase, because again, this is something that is a win-win program. But we had other programs before in the 50s, 60s, 70s. The domestic scheme, which also through which a number of people from the Eastern Caribbean and the Caribbean came to Canada, worked as domestics for a year, and then went on to study and pursue their career. And we have a number of stellar examples of what you helped us do, including with Jean Augustine, who became the first black member of Parliament and black cabinet member in Canada. So that's quite an effect. Let me take 1 minute here to talk about an example of social justice that I think talks a lot about a relationship and how our history is intertwined. And as you know, in a family, between siblings, you have sometimes usually very good moments, and sometimes things are a bit more tension. And I want to take a minute to talk about what has been called the George William Affair, which took place in 1969. And for those of you who don't know, in 1969, there was a number of students, black students at what is now Concordia University, but was called at that time George William, who started in 1969 a peaceful protest against racial discrimination from the biology professor at the school. And unfortunately, the administration took the side or was not acting and supported the teacher rather than the students. And what started as a peaceful protest that lasted 2 weeks, around 2 weeks, where the 7th building, the computer lab of the building was occupied, ended in police abuse and arrest of 100 students or so, which led to including deportation of some of them after a few years. And I have to say that I would like to thank those very courageous students for what they did. Some of those students went on to become leaders in Canada. Anne Cools was one of those students. Rosie, you're scooping me. Anne Cools was one of those students, and she became the first black senator in Canada.
Wow.
Rosie Douglas was deported and became Prime Minister in Dominica. This protest is still one of the most important protests in Canada, in the history of Canada. And I think it is very momentous and important in the history of the Caribbean. And I have to say that, you know, Canada in 1969, and I was there in 1969, believe it or not, is not the same as Canada in 2019. It's definitely not the same. And what happened in 1969 cannot be justified anymore today, cannot be accepted anymore today, both on the individual level as well as the institutional level. Racism, of course, will always exist. We've just seen it, unfortunately, in a tragic event last week in New Zealand. But today, the police force will not condemn it anymore. The institution will not say that it's okay. We can say that this is not acceptable and we don't want this anymore. So again, I really, for the record, want to thank those students that had the courage to go against the system and do that peaceful protest that changed our joint history. So, so let me conclude here, and now I think that illustrates why I say that I'm very happy to be here today. I'm very glad that we're doing this because it formalizes something that has been going on, a relationship, our brotherhood has been going on for a long, long time, and it will continue. But now it's a little bit more formal than it was before. And so I can say it was really a pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, High Commissioner, for your very long statement and recollections of very important pieces of history.
Yes, absolutely.
I think I was informed too, right? DJ?
Hilford Littleville was the solution in all of
Littleville, Lacha,
Wilkie Latcher.
and Modest, Harry Modest. So we do recall some of those persons who later on went to become very important people in terms of education, institution, and the legal profession.
Ambassador Severin, if you allow me, I forgot, I have something for Dr. Jones. So Dr. Jones, if you can come. As you know, Canada celebrated the 150th anniversary 2 years ago, in 2017, and we took that time to kind of reflect a little bit who we are today as a country, as a nation, and as I said, we're not who we were in '69, so we're very proud of who we are today as a very inclusive, open, diverse society, and the Caribbean has been part of that. So we did, and sometimes we brag. We don't brag very often. It's our thing. But we do sometimes, and we need to. So we did a book for that that's called The World Needs More Canada. And I'm going to offer you that collection of, it's really, you know, the main people people that have marked Canada are there, and they tell their story, what Canada means to them. So I'm going to offer it to you. And also, perhaps even more importantly, we also, the High Commission of Canada in Barbados and the OECS, celebrated a lot in 2017 what we had accomplished together in the region over the many, many years. And we took the opportunity of creating this book to recall a little bit our joint history in a funky book. It's a, it's not a history book. It's just a funky book, and it has very interesting pieces of trivia and information in it, as well as it was to thank the people who made our celebrations that year possible, and to thank our team. And I have to say that when I mentioned, as we were doing it, and we did it in-house at the High Commission, and when I mentioned it to Dr. Jules at an event, and I showed it, and they said, I want to be part of it, I want to be part of it. So Dr. Jules, you are part of that.
Thank you very much again.
So just for clarification, my being part of it is that I was one of the senior scholars.
Yeah.
Both.
And as director of OECS, Director General of OECS.
So we now invite you, High Commissioner, to sign the visitor's book, which we do at this time.
I should sit down.
You have a lot to write?
Yes, it was a lot to write. Thank you.
At this point in the proceedings, we have what is called a publish of bank, and we expect those glasses to be coming any moment now.
Yes, of course. We will,
Lawyers World Cup next year in Marrakech. So I saw a message there from my attorneys in Trinidad. Like we normally take a team to look at Monday or Bukatas and Lawyers World Cup every 2 years. Shits in Marrakech. So I'm looking forward to that.
extra copies that you can carry.
Did you know you're opening the book up to your page? You know, you're in there twice actually. Once in English, once in French. Wonderful, thank you.
I think we need to talk more about that. It's important to talk about the
Being a lawyer, I go with
Yes, thank you.
alcoholic.
Yes.
Okay, so I think everyone who should have a glass does have a glass. And Excellencies, colleagues, I want to ask that you please rise and join me in offering a toast to the continued excellent fraternal relations that have existed between Canada and our member states and in recent times of our organization.
Cheers.
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 So we shall. It's okay.
Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
So that is good to hear. Ambassador, right? Mr. Gleed, yes. Good to meet you. Really?